Hello everyone, welcome to Let's Crack UPSC CSE English. About me, I am Sandeep Bhushan. I have 8 years of teaching experience for civil services. I teach international relations, internal security and analysis of Hindu newspaper. And then it is in regards to the tips to crack prelims in 90 days. You have a notification that you subscribe for cracking UPSC CSE with Unacademy, and it is the India's largest learning platform, and by subscription you have unlimited access which would be live and recorded courses from India's best educators. You would also get daily live classes wherein you can chat with your educator, engage in discussions, ask your doubts and answer polls. You will also have live tests and quizzes wherein you can evaluate your preparation with our regular mock test and quizzes, and would also get detailed analysis on your performance. You also have structured courses, and all your courses are structured in line with the UPSC exam syllabus, which would help you best prepare for it. You also have unlimited access. By subscribing, you would get access to all our live and recorded courses wherein you can watch through your mobile or through laptop. And at Unacademy you have top educators Sudarshan Gurjar, Ayush Sanghi, Prakash Kumar and Runal Patel. Along with the top educators, you have special classes which are taken by Dr. Roman Saini sir, Dr. Siddharth Arora, Lokendra Chauhan, Rakesh Verma and Ashish Malik. You also have upcoming courses which are lined up in our platform. They are capsule courses on 250 multiple choice questions for UPSC prelims, comprehensive course on public administration, capsule course on geography optional, and also on Let's Crack UPSC CSE 2021. And then you have, in regards to subscription, you can subscribe for 12 months and also for 24 months. For 12 months the actual price is 40,000 and for 24 months the actual price is 52,000. But when you use my code SBT10, you would get a 10% discount on 40,000, that is you would be paying only 36,000. And when you use my code SBT10, you would get additional discount of 10%, wherein the price would be 46,800. So it is very clear that while you are in the preparation for civil services, you have to at least spare 1 year to 2 years for the preparation. So your 1 year preparation and your 2 years preparation, that is in regards to the subscription, it's always better that you subscribe for 24 months. The reason is because the amount you pay for the 24 months is 46,800 and for 12 months it is 36,000. That means the difference between the 24 months and 12 months is only 10,000 rupees. So it is always recommended that you subscribe for 24 months and then get maximum benefit from the Unacademy subscription by the best educators. And then we would get into the analysis of the Hindu newspaper. And then today's newspaper, we have news item in regards to the role of Lieutenant Governor. So when you have this in regards to the role of the Lieutenant Governor and in regards to the elected government, so we have seen that there is always a tussle between the Lieutenant Governor and the government or the Chief Minister, especially in the Union territories. So there is a Madras High Court. The Madras High Court has given a judgment on March 11, 2020, saying that the government is a trustee to the little man who should have a perception that the running of the government is a gigantic conspiracy. So it's very clearly saying that running the government is not a conspiracy, or it should not be a gigantic conspiracy. And then it has also held that Puducherry's Lieutenant Governor and the elected government should work in tandem, that is in unison. So the both should work together, wherein if they are not working together, then it is the people of the particular union will be at stake. So the High Court said that the state legislatures were the creation of the constitution. This again you can use it for the prelims point of view. The High Court has said that the state legislations were created by the constitution, but wherein the union territory legislation were created by a law called as Government of Union Territories Act 1963. So the High Court, when it is given a judgment that the lieutenant governor and then the elected government has to work in tandem, that is in unison, it has also mentioned that the creation of the state legislation and the creation of the union territory. So the state legislation is created by the constitution, and then the union territory legislation is created by the law, that is Government of Union Territories Act 1963. And this, please make sure that you are also focusing in regards to the prelims point of view. And then this judgment was given by the two-judge bench, that is Chief Justice Amreshwar Pratap Sahi and Subramaniam Prasad. And this two-judge bench have given a ruling that they have set aside the previous ruling. That means the previous verdict or the previous ruling or the judgment was by the single judge. So the earlier judgment on the tussle between the lieutenant governor and the elected government was given judgment by the single judge bench, and that was that the judgment by the single judge was in favor of the elected government, wherein it said that the single judge judgment has said that it is the elected government which has to actually go ahead with having more powers, and the lieutenant governor should not interfere in the day-to-day functioning. And then it has basically said that it is the elected government, that is the chief minister, which has the sole power in the day-to-day functioning, that is by the single judge. But if you look at this judgment, that is Madras High Court, now with the two-judge bench, they have set aside the single judge bench judgment, and then they said that whatever the single judge bench has given the judgment or the verdict, that is basically incorrect. And it says that the legislation of union territory was on par with the state. And then in regards to that, they say that they both have to work together. And then the bench, the two-judge bench also has made it very clear that the lieutenant governor should act as a bridge between the local government and then the center. And then later, that is the center has to play the role of an umpire whenever there is disagreement between the lieutenant governor and the council of ministers. So the two-judge bench has made it very clear that they both have to work in tandem. And then state legislation is created by constitution, union territory is created by the Government of Union Territories Act 1963, and the single judge bench, which was earlier given earlier judgment by the single judge, is not correct, and then it has been kept aside or set aside. And then the two-judge bench has given a judgment saying that the lieutenant governor should act as a bridge between the local government and the center. So if you look at, as per the constitutional provision of 1963 Act, the rules of the business of Government of Puducherry. So looking at the rules of the business of the Government of Puducherry, it lays down the role to be played by the elected government, lieutenant governor and center. So please understand, you have the constitutional provisions in Government of Union Territories Act 1963, and in that the rules of the business of Government of Puducherry, they very clearly mention that what is the role it has to be played by the elected government, by the lieutenant governor and the center. So these points, please make sure that you are keeping in view in regards to the prelims point of view, because the above whatever we have discussed could be part of the statement 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to eliminate or which of the following is not correct or incorrect. So this would be helpful for the prelims point of view. And the next is forcible disposition of a person property is a human rights violation. So here the court is talking about the property, that property is a human right. So the Supreme Court has given a judgment saying that whenever there is forcible disposition of a person's private property, without due process of law. So this is very important, and the keyword again we have to be taking care is that due process of law. So whenever there is a property which is by forcible disposition which is taken by, or else which is a private property which has been taken without due process, that is in violation of human rights. So please understand. So this again could be a probable prelims question. So whenever the property is being forcibly disposed, private property wherein there is no due process of law, then it is very clear that it is in violation of the human rights. And the judgment also said that the appellant could not have been forcibly disposed of a property without any legal sanction. So the court was talking about the judgment. Here the judgment is been taken up by the Justice S.K. Kaul. So here the court has stressed the right to property. So the right to property is both a human right and a constitutional right. Not fundamental right, it is human right and a constitutional right. Again, prelims point of view. And then it says human right because when it is not, the property is not taken into possession without the due process, then it is violation of human right. So that is what it says, it is human right. And it also says that it is a constitutional right. When it is saying constitutional right, sorry, so it is in regards to the Article 300. So Article 300A, as per the Article 300A of the Constitution, it is constitutional right. So what does this Article 300A says? That it is the job or the duty of the state to make sure that the property is protected and the individual's property is not being taken into consideration or taken by any even by the state or even by the any party by forceful methods. So Article 300A, again please make sure that Article 300A for the prelims point of view. The verdict came on the acquisition of 3 acres, that is, the case has been filed by Maharaja of Sikkim, wherein the land which was taken by this government, Sikkim state, that was in regards to the 1.29 acres of Maharaja of Sikkim, and then 7.70 acres in the name of Man Bahadur Basnet. So this land was recorded on both of them, and then the appellant is the father of Man Bahadur Basnet, who has filed a case that the government has taken, the Sikkim government has taken or it has possessed the land to make sure that they would start a state's agriculture department in 1980, to make sure that they would go ahead with building the Progeny Orchard Regional Center. So for the Progeny Orchard Regional Center, they have taken up the land in 1980, and then they have filed the case. The appellant is the father of the Man Bahadur Basnet, and they have filed the case. And the court gave the state 3 months time. As it has said, it is in violation of the human right and constitution right. It has given 3 months for the state, wherein it says that you make up your mind what you want to do. And then what you want to do, when it is saying that, it is also asking that would you like to retain the land. If you want to retain the land, then that means you would like to surrender, or you would like to surrender the possession of the land. And then when they are also surrendering the possession of the land, the appellant also would approach the court, or would also get the kind of the amount which has been used for such a long time, the land which has been used. So again, in this case, the court has given judgment in the favor of the appellant. So it is very clear that forcible disposition of person's property. So here what is important is, in this verdict, is forcible disposition. So forcible disposition of person's property is a human rights violation. Again, this could be a probable question in regards to Article 3, in regards to civil prelims 2020, keeping in mind the Article 300A, that right to property is a human right and constitutional right. And then here again, Supreme Court has given a judgment on the sexual harassment at the workplace. So the Supreme Court has given a judgment saying that sexual harassment at the workplace is their fundamental, and that means it is an affront to their fundamental right, that is right to equality and right to life with dignity. So if there is any kind of sexual harassment in the workplace, the Supreme Court clearly says that in the judgment that it is against the fundamental right to equality, that it is a fundamental right, that is right to equality and then right to life with dignity. And then this judgment was by the bench led by Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. On February 2020, the verdict has come up, and it has said that the sexual harassment at the workplace is against the Article 14 and Article 15, and also under Article 21. That is, under Article 21 of the Constitution, that is right to practice any profession or carry on any occupation or trade or business. So based on the Article 14, 15 and Article 21, the justice, the bench led by Justice D.Y. Chandrachud has given a judgment saying that it is against the fundamental right and fundamental right to life and right to life with dignity. Here the complaint has been made by a senior officer of Punjab and Sindh, wherein she was transferred from Indore to Jabalpur because she has complained against the irregularities of the corruption. So the irregularities which has taken up in the Punjab Sindh Bank, and this officer, lady officer, has brought to the notice, or she has complained about the irregularities and the corruptions. So when she has complained, then she was sexually harassed, or else there was some kind of harassment. And what is that harassment? That she was being transferred from one place to other, that is Indore to Jabalpur. So here in this case, when the transfer is taking place or the posting is being done, is that the court can interfere in it? No, the court has very clearly said that it cannot have a choice of posting. That means court has said that employees do not have any choice of posting, and neither the court cannot interfere when there is any kind of transfers. But unless if the transfer is provided to be malified, that means, or there is some kind of intention, bad intention with bad intention of the authority in regards to the transfer, then looking into that aspect, the court has concluded that the order of transfer was an act of unfair treatment and it is vitiated by malefit. So after concluding the facts of the transfer or the kind of the harassment which the officer has met, so looking into all that, the court has given a judgment saying that the order of the transfer was an unfair practice or unfair treatment against the lady officer. So the keyword unfair treatment, and it has vitiated the malified intention. So this is in regards to the Supreme Court comes down on sexual harassment at workplace. So Article 14, 15 and 21 in regards to the prelims point of view. And then you have a news in regards to the COVID-19, wherein the WHO says that it is now or declared it as pandemic. So what do you mean by pandemic? When the WHO has declared it as, COVID-19 as a pandemic, that means pandemic is declared when a disease for which the people do not have immunity, or it's spreading across the world beyond expectation. So when there is no immunity or there is spread across the world beyond expectations, so then when there is little control to contain or to prevent the spread of the virus, that is especially in regards to the coronavirus, then the WHO, the international organization, World Health Organization, has declared COVID-19 as a pandemic. In regards to this, we also have that information: all states and union territories are advised to invoke all union territories and states are advised to invoke the provisions of Section 2 of the Epidemic Disease Act 1987. So it is very clear that when it is pandemic, now this state, that is when I am talking about state, that is the center along with the states and all the union territories, and then the health ministry along with the prime minister PMO office have come up with a war machinery, or which has come up with a task force or with an agency which says that it is the need of the hour to contain or to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. So based on that, there is an advice that they have to invoke provisions. All the states have to invoke provisions of Section 2 of the Epidemic Disease Act 1987, so that all advisories given by the central government from time to time by them, that is by the ministry of or by the state or union territories, all these they are all enforceable. That means as it is spreading, as it is going ahead with a widespread, as it is beyond expectations, the invoking of Section 2 of Epidemic Diseases Act 1897 is invoked, and then all the advisories, all the statements or all the letters which have been issued are enforceable. Again, this is in regards to the prelims point of view, please make sure. And then there is a group of ministers which have been constituted. They have come up, they have constituted a group of ministers. Why? So that they would review the measures taken by the management, so that the COVID-19 in India is not spreading, or it is contained. Not that it is not spreading, even though it is spreading, we would try to contain the spread of it vigorously, so that it doesn't spread vigorously. And then the Indian Medical Association has also made a note saying that sharing the data of the infected people on a daily basis would also create a panic across the nation. So it is also a valid point by the IMA, saying that whenever we are sharing the data, it is creating a panic, because as we have seen that in India just started with 3 and then 10, 12 and then 20s and then 40s, 60s, and today now it is almost close to 70 plus. So that number definitely, when it is increasing, it creates a kind of panic between within the people and then within the country also. So that is a cause of concern which has been raised by the IMA. And then you have an international body, that is the International Federation of Red Cross, IFRC, that is along with the UNICEF, and then with the WHO. You have IFRC, you have UNICEF, you have WHO. All these together have issued a new guidance or guidelines. What is the guidance or the guidelines they have issued? All the three, IFRC, UNICEF and WHO, that they would wish to protect, or they would wish to help to protect the children's and the schools from transmitting the COVID-19. So the point here is that it is not that the countries or else the WHO is just trying to contain the virus. They are trying to contain the virus irrespective of the ages, because it affects the people who are children's, kids, and then it affects very fast the kids and the old age people. So this can be controlled if there is some kind of guidelines by the international organizations, IFRC, UNICEF and WHO, how to help protect the children and schools from the COVID. So we have the checklist given by the three organizations, international organizations, that the guidance provides critical consideration. So there has to be a critical consideration and practical checklist. What are the critical considerations and the practical checklist? That is to keep the schools safe. This is very important. So when the schools are safe, that the prevention can be taken care. That means the spread of coronavirus can be reduced. And it also advises the national and the local authorities how to adapt and implement the emergency plans for educational facilities. Because this is very important. As we have said that the best way to contain the virus is to educate people. That it is always recommended that what are the measures to take, not to make sure that the spread of the virus is not taking place at the larger extent or with a fastest or with a very fast mode. So educating people is very important. and wherein the guidelines or the checklist gives very clearly that the national and the local authorities, they need to know how to adapt and implement the emergency plans for the educational facilities. And in the event of the school closures, that means to contain the virus, to contain the spread of the virus virulent, we have to, they have given a guidelines that schools have to be closed. And then there is a recommendation to mitigate against the possible negative impacts on children. So as we said, that there could be medical and sociological and psychological developments which can take place or which are taking place across the world and which would also impact India. I repeat, it could be medical, sociological and psychological developments. So this psychological development, when we are talking about it, it could have a negative psychological impact on the children's learning and well-being. So this also has to be taken care, and this is one of the checklist how best we can try to be away and making sure that it will not impact the children's learnings and well-being. And then we should also have a solid plans to make sure that the continuity of the learning and including the remote learning options. That means the learning has to take place. What kind of learning has to take place? That is the remote learning options, that is such as online education. So the three international organizations, they are very keen in regards to making sure that the children are safe, schools are safe, and then making sure that it will not have the negative impact on the children's learning and well-being. At the same time, they are also making sure that they should have a solid plans like having a remote learning option, that is online education. So this is gaining a momentum, and when this is gaining a momentum, yes, it is taken in a right manner to educate the children who are not getting into school, who are at home, to make sure that they also have the facility to go ahead with the academics content. That means they should go ahead with online education. They should also, we should also have the radio broadcast of academic content and access to essential services to all the children. And then it also says that the checklist, which is very important, the last one, education can encourage. Please understand, and this is a very important keyword or the phrase, you can take it. Education can encourage students to become advocates for disease prevention and control at home, in school and their community. Probably you can also write an answer taking this, and then how best educating people will try to contain the spread of virus. So education can encourage students to become advocates. So it says that students will become advocates. That means they would be as an ambassadors for preventing the disease and controlling the disease at home, not only at home, at school, and also in their community. So this is in regards to the COVID, which is pandemic, what WHO says, and what IFRC, UNICEF and WHO together have come up with the checklist of the guidelines. And then you have the news in regards to the economy or business, which talks about the pesticide sector is being hit badly because of the shortage of the input, or there is an input issues, that is imports issues, fertilizers, that is pesticides inputs or shortage. So we have a report, or there is an analysis which has been prepared or done by the Agriculture Ministry. And what is that findings by the Agriculture Ministry? We would look at it. It says that the Indian pesticide industry is badly hit because it is heavily dependent on Chinese imports for raw materials to go ahead with making the pesticides, or preparing the pesticides. So because of the coronavirus, the spread of coronavirus. That is, the China, Wuhan was the epicenter of it, and because of that the entire production units were shut down, and then most of the Chinese go ahead with the exports, and India in turn has been heavily dependent on the Chinese imports for raw materials, and because of that we have been impacted very badly, and this is a cause of concern. It is a point of analysis. And then the ministry also estimates that the domestic inventories may be sufficient. That means whatever stock we have in regards to the Indian pesticides which were already imported from China are at this juncture sufficient, and they are sufficient for Kharif season. But the ministry also says that if there is any further supply disruptions, or there is any kind of distraction, or there is any kind of the supply is not being taken care properly, or there is still stoppage of supply from or imports of pesticides into India, then it could hurt the farmers. Then it will impact the farmers. So once it impacts the farmers, then it is very clear that the output in the Kharif season would be good, but the output in the Rabi season would be impacting negatively. Then once that is done, then the prices of the vegetables and the fruits would shoot up, and that would also impact, or it would add to the inflation. So that would hurt the farmers, and not only farmers, it would also hurt the citizens, the end consumers. And then functioning of the domestic pesticides industries may not be affected immediately, because we have the domestic inventories sufficient. When we are talking about sufficient, that is Kharif season, that means we have at least for next 6 months. So therefore for the next 6 months we need not really worry, but later on after 6 months, if still there is restrictions on the Chinese imports for the in regards to the Indian pesticides, then it would be a cause of concern. So pesticides industry in India, as it is heavily dependent on the import, around 15 technical insecticides. We are importing around 15 technical insecticides from China. So again, this is, please do take it into consideration for prelims point of view. Technical insecticides, 15 technical insecticides. So what do you mean by, or what technical insecticides mean? Technical insecticides are an intermediate product used in the manufacture of commercial pesticides. So this is the intermediate product which is used in the manufacture of commercial products. So when this is will be impacted, if there is more of restrictions on the import, then it would also impact the manufacture of commercial pesticides within India. And we are talking about 15 pesticides. Among that you have acephate, cartep, buprofezin, pretilachlor, and all this represents, or they constitutes 80 to 90% of the import from China. Wherein you have the other things which are the pesticides which are in regards to the technical insecticides, which constitutes 40 to 50% imports from China. So these are the pesticides which are really in the flow to get into India imports, but we need not really worried about it, because there are good amount of stockage or the inventories for next 6 months. And then you have few technical insecticides which are also manufactured in India. So few are actually being imported from China, and then there are few which are technical insecticides which are also manufactured in India, and they also involve the raw material. And these raw materials are also again imported from China. So thereby, on the whole, the Agriculture Ministry in regards to the Indian pesticides industry is a cause of concern, not now, but at least after 6 months, if the imports from the China are not being lifted. And what are the measures? So we need to use this opportunity to backward integrate. So again a keyword, backward integrate. and put up the capacity so that we are not dependent on imports. So what is the lesson we have to learn is that we are totally dependent on the imports, especially in regards to pesticides from China. So we have to take this opportunity to backward integrate. That means we have to not just depend on imports, but we have to push backward and then integrate something. What is that? We have to build the capacity. So when we have to build the capacity, we would be not totally dependent on imports. So when I'm saying that we have to build or we have to come up with a capacity building unit, so what is that? Is that this center has to clear. That means there has to be a faster clearance for imports. The other one is the capacity building is to make sure that there is faster clearance for imports, and also the most important, facilitate the indigenous Indian manufacturing licenses so that India can become self-reliant or self-sufficient. This is very important keyword, which can be for prelims and also for the mains point of view. So what is that? We have to take the opportunity that we have to move or we have to integrate backward, so that we have to build the building capacity within India, and then there has to be a faster clearances for imports in the near future from the China when the goods are entering into India, and along with that there has to be the center has to facilitate manufacturing licenses to Indian manufacturing units so that India can become self-sufficient rather than depending on imports. The government must also help local manufacturing companies by granting registration from, and who grants this registration for the local manufacturing in regards to the preparing or making the pesticides? That is Central Insecticides Board and Manufacturing License by states. So it is the Central Insecticide Board and also the manufacturing license by states have to be made sure that the registration process has to be taken up at a speedy process, wherein the local manufacturing companies are granted registration so that India can be self-reliant, not being dependent on imports, and then making sure that we are to the backward integrating and then taking the positive opportunity out of this entire making sure that the imports are reduced because of the coronavirus. And because of the coronavirus, not only on the pesticides industry, there is impact negatively on the automobile industry. So according to the Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers, automobile production across categories that means in regards to passenger vehicle, in regards to commercial vehicles, in regards to two-wheelers, and in regards to three-wheelers, it has critically impacted the supply chain. So there is hamper that it has impacted or impaired the supply chain. So what is important here, keyword is supply chain. So the supply chain has been disrupted because of the coronavirus, and it has been disrupted for the passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles, and then the two-wheelers. And then you have automakers in India, wherein they import around 10% of their raw material from China. Again, the same kind of the pesticide industry, even the automobile industry also goes ahead with the raw materials, 10% of raw materials importing from China, and this disruption, that is the cap or the restrictions on the imports of the raw materials in regards to the automobile industry also will gravely affect the electric vehicle production. Again, please do understand the electric vehicle production, the keyword here, which could be again for prelims point of view, because India is focusing on the electric vehicle production. That is, India wanted to go ahead with the BS4 vehicle supplies, and because of the current lockdown, it will impact the BS4 vehicles, and then we are going ahead with the BS4, that is also in regards to the electric vehicle to contain the carbon emissions. And there is impact on in regards to the Indian real estates also because of the outbreak of coronavirus, and that is in regards to we have seen in 2019 the international institutional investments from especially Singapore, Hong Kong, and then mainland China have accounted for almost 28% in the real estate investments in India. That means it was a good figure, wherein in 2019 the real estate investments have increased in India. But if you look at after the outbreak of the coronavirus, that is now in the year 2020, it has been a slower decision making by the international institutional investments to invest in India, because there is constraint on the capital deployment. So as there is a constraint in capital deployment in India, the real estate is also being impacted. And also on the space, we can foresee occupancy in flexible workspaces to be muted. That means to be restricted in March, especially in the national capital Delhi, because of the outbreak. There is always a possibility that the startups would encourage the employees to work for home, wherein they need not go to the office, and then there could be a possibility that the spread of virus to be violent. So the impact of coronavirus on the Indian economy, especially focusing on the pesticide industry, automobile industry, and then the real estate industry, it has impacted negatively. Fine. So I presume that the analysis, Hindu newspaper analysis, was helpful for you in regards to this prelims preparation, and it was informative. So please do like, subscribe, and then hit the bell button for more notification whenever you are viewing or watching the video in the YouTube, that is Let's Crack UPSC Civil Services English video. And then you can also use my code SBT10, that is Sandeep Bhushan Thummala 10 code, to avail 10% discount on your learner's subscription. Thank you, and see you in the next video tomorrow at 8:30 p.m.